Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and it seems an absolute age since we did a full tour of the city, so that's what we're going to do today. And it strikes me that we did a Spot the Goblin competition while we were going around last time, so I figure we should continue that this time. So if you want to try and spot 5 goblins like this one when we're going around, not including him, then put them in the comments section. Otherwise, without further ado, this is Brick Nottingham. Well, we start in the first standing hole, the main view of the Lego room, and going around the outside track is my extra long cargo train with some of its animated wagons, looking very varied indeed, and super duper long. And on the inside track, that's my passenger line, and the one that's on at the moment is the new express passenger train. So let's get that going as well. Lovely. Now, I've only got 2 loops of train track, and I often get asked why I don't have more, basically making my love of trains even more prominent in the city. But one of the reasons I don't is just because I really like having a vast array of buildings, because essentially trains take up a heck of a lot of space. And if you want to have a city that looks really dense, packed and stacked, as I say, absolutely full of buildings looking like a built-up metropolis with layer after layer, one behind the other, then you really need to stack in those buildings. So that is what I've tried to do. And you can see in certain places we've got, well, so many layers at a lower level. It really does look quite lifelike. One level there with other buildings behind 2, other buildings behind 3, and even more up against the wall as facades. And what I really like about having all of these buildings around is the variety that they allow me to have, and that's why I make a lot of them very small, just so I can pack in as many themes and ideas as I can, but also because they allow me to have lots of different sort of nooks and perspectives, like say this building site down here, hidden behind a lot of other buildings that you wouldn't see unless you were actually peering around them. And that's what I really like in my city. Seeing something new every time, a different perspective, a different view. Maybe you can see a different scene or a different sort of smaller build just from an angle. And it always cheers me up when I see something I haven't seen for quite a while. And I absolutely love just reminding myself of all the details that I've actually done, because there's so many. Now, as well as trying to use every square inch of my room for Lego, I've tried to minimize the areas that I work from, so I don't have a gap all around the outside. And I've also tried to incorporate them into the theme of the city. Given that I've got all water around this first standing hole, I decided to make this brick bay, and the opening from Brick Bay into the sea is this channel here. So this is where we can start our detailed tour around this area. So we've got the wonderful girder bridge made out of single old blue rails, which I absolutely adore. It was inspired by one from a catalogue that was a bit smaller, way back in the 1970s, but I've taken it into the next level. So I think you'll agree that's rather great. If it is a little fragile, do not knock against that. In the bay, we've just got a cresting whale and a kayaker and a dinosaur here. We've also got a swamp monster hiding in the rocks from this monster hunter with a map. There's also a little switch here hidden to power our Vestas wind turbine that's right over there. And this is the start of our monorail system, where I have the trams echoing the ones in real Nottingham, and they go behind all of the buildings, so they disappear and then reappear in gaps, like on this lovely red girder bridge using snap pieces. So yeah, that continues throughout the city. And here is a really good example of the multi-levels, in that I've got the water level being a lot lower than the street level, so we can have water with all the boats on, then some quayside, and then Old Market Square, again just like in real life Nottingham, and then more steps up even from that around the back or around this ramp here, onto the main level. And I've done that by having basically a C shape of tables around the outside, sort of like that. And then in the middle having a lower recess table, and that also allows me to use that recess to create even more 3D effects, like this 3D subway entrance with a minifigure at the bottom there you can just make out, I think. So it makes it really interesting, I think you'll agree. So yeah, we've got a lot of different vehicles in the city, as you'd expect, all moored up here, the boats ready to go out into Brick Bay. And I wanted to incorporate a very large ship as kind of a tourist attraction originally, but in the end I decided that this was too good to pass up on, Destiny's Bounty, so I've converted it to a floating Chinese restaurant, and we've got all the lovely tiles of Chinese food from the recent New Year's sets being served up to paying customers. So that's really good, with some added interest on the front there. Another subway entrance down there with a Vestas engineer going down to see what the issue is with the turbine, because it's not producing all of its power, and that's because the pesky turtles are actually skimming some power off the top. If I turn that turbine back on, you'll see that the lights in their little hideout go on, and I think that's a really fun touch, really good idea. So yeah, I like to have cutaways in my city as well like this, so we can kind of see into areas that otherwise would be hidden. Now this area is still to be developed. I like to use it for putting things on, but at the moment we've still got Santa on there from Christmas. We've also got a part of my dog collection, which is one of the many problems that I have collecting things that drive future builds. So we'll see a lot of those collections as we go around, because I think whether it's series minifigures or collections of certain type of pieces or something, it's a shame to have them sort of on display somewhere. I think it's much better to have them incorporated in your city and in use, creating lovely, interesting scenes, whether it be a dropped ice cream there, or an old couple on a bench, or even Grogu floating down the street with the Mandalorian. Maybe they're cosplayers going to the cosplay festival. Yeah, it just makes for a really interesting city. Now, along the back wall there, I've got an absolute load of facades. We've got everything from a girls' school to apartment buildings, where a husband has come home early here to find his wife and a man on the ledge. Then we've got another one here, just with some pictures in the window and a package being delivered by a drone. That's quite interesting. The tallest building, arguably, in the city is the one with Lord Business on the balcony, and even higher than him, King Kong, on the top, of course. Then another facade here, being a deli building, and another tram stop on this side of this building, and then the building site on the far side, which is supposed to be a boys' school. So yes, there's lots to see on there. And I think it's also good to incorporate a lot of things with a great deal of height in amongst small things that you have to kind of look around one way or the other, like this crane, because you can have very prominent scenes on it that are really good fun, like the Sleepwalker, but it just adds to the realism of a city and the fact that you've got all these different layers. So there we go, the facades continue on the outside with another hotel and another apartment block there. And then possibly my biggest facade of all being Brick Nottingham Castle, which is kind of a mashup of a lot of classic sets. It's got some medieval village buildings built into Castle Rock where the trains go underneath. We've also got this one being the Crown Inn with a nice Guinness sign on a neighbouring building and a telephone booth. And then this one is the tourist office with a working blacksmith with the wheel being powered by the little river, Trent, goes underneath here all the way into Brick Bay. And over that as well is where the drawbridge is for the castle. And this is a mashup, as I say, of all those old sets back in the 80s, augmented a little bit with more modern pieces, but we've got the old armoury in there and the blacksmith and so on, and kind of the tower set up from the Black Falcon Fortress all combined together. And I think it really adds a lot of interest, towering over, kind of on another level again, the rest of Brick Nottingham. And then that goes on to Major Oak Hill over here, where we've got some actors acting as knights invading for the tourists to put on a scene, and that path sort of goes off into the wall and disappears. So that's kind of another benefit of using these walls, is that you can have whole scenes sort of vanishing off like a dot 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 into the distance without having to resolve all of the ends. And then we've got a great big run of shops, all sorts of things. Ice cream shop, toy shop, a bank, a motorcycle shop. And a lot of these are from sets, but I've augmented all of them or changed them a little bit. A donut shop. That is a pet shop where all the pets are escaping because he's a very careless owner, and that's probably why we've got a crocodile in the Trent as well, if the camera will focus under the bridge. A Lego store, TV and game store, and the snow sports store with the Yeti on the top from the old Orient Explorers line. So I think that's really appropriate. And then just another 3D subway entrance, except this one is a cutaway. So we're going all the way down under the ground, down some escalators, into the subway station. And this is on another level of tables. It's actually lower than the main level again, and lower than sea level. And you can see we've got all sorts of different scenes here, like a busker, and a rat eating a pizza, and some more monster hunters looking for another monster. So let's get this train going as well, and have it flying off around the underneath of our city. So that is going all the way around there, underneath the castle, all the way around there, and then a loop back on itself. And we might just see, oh, did you just see a glimpse of it there? Just to the left of the carousel, behind that Japanese style building. It will be coming around any second now. Ooh, there, and quickly. Hey! So the idea is that obviously this goes in a much bigger route and includes all of the stations like that one, but in reality it just goes in a loop on a lower table level. But yeah, it's a really good touch. And here is our tram for the monorail, so we'll get him going as well. And he makes a bit of a complaining noise when he's going up and down that hill, but I think it adds a bit more variation. And there you see it vanish, and just see snippets of it before it vanishes again, before appearing down the other side. And the wonderful thing about this system is that it doesn't need to be a loop, it can just go to and fro. So that is really good. So continuing roughly where we left off, we've got our spilt milk scene over here outside my mock supermarket, and a kiddie car ride. Then we've got the Old Town starting, continuing on Castle Green here, with some places to eat for the tourists. And then I've continued to use the rest of Diagon Alley, but changed the use of it from Harry Potter to a more generic use. Hee have to mind these things. And there's examples of me using series minifigures in the city, like the Paperboy and the old-fashioned British policeman chasing a robber who's knocked over an old lady, the rascal. And we've got Glove World there, and the Pink Flamingo nightclub with its lovely sign. That looks really good. And this little alley here is called Apollo Arcade, and I really like that with the statue on the end and the cobbled street that I've tried to make very sort of angled, like it was very old. Then I've got the Palace Cinema, where we've got the premiere of a film with the late Queen attending with all of the stars of the movie and all of the fans. And then we move over the road to where we've got a bachelor party at the Krusty Krab pub, another pub in Brick Nottingham, more guests outside, and some people being attacked by seagulls for their fish and chips at the very small fish and chip shop with a Duplo fish on the top and a nice sign out the back. Then the beach continues our fun scenes with a dynamic game of beach volleyball, and then possibly my favourite scene of the entire city, some Baywatch babes walking past who've caught the eye of this man, and well, let's just say his missus is not particularly happy with him. Then we've got a sandcastle competition, all sorts of fun going on, and somebody running out of one of the changing cabins, leaving his lady wife in a state of undress. Poor girl. And then all the way down to our sunburnt man, who has clearly been overdoing it, and my mirrored old fishing shack, which is just the other way around, so it better incorporates into my city, with the steps coming down towards the beach and the galley going around the back to the crazy golf course, which is a great thing to kind of sandwich in the corner of the railway track, which is a lot harder to use for normal buildings. And my favourite is definitely this hole here with the loop-de-loop. Looks tricky. And then I've tried to split up my modulars as much as possible, because I really hate seeing them all in rows and all in a massive grid system. I think that's quite boring. So having, again, layer after layer after layer after layer of buildings, and a fairground behind even that, is a really good idea, I think. And then I've tried to use every flat space, whether it be for beekeepers on the top of here, or this old lady with her wonderful garden of flowers, very varied and interesting indeed, or these series minifigures as performers in the street. Past the diner sign. It's quite hard to film in these cities, you know, because there's too many obstacles. Yep, just hit another one. Then we've got the Mayor of Brick Nottingham, who's probably the only minifigure without yellow skin, just because she has very perma-tan, fake tan skin, and that is the angry competing Mayor of Brick Derby, our nemesis city next door, who really don't like us doing as well as we are. So yeah, there we go. And if I just look up from where we are now, I can show you into the skies of Brick Nottingham. We've got a plane taking off over the airport. We've got one of my other favourite scenes ever, the skydivers all leaping out the back of this plane, one yet to jump, just jumped, and some assembling. Aliens from the Alien Conquest line, one of my favourites ever, in the skies, being buzzed by some jets. And I try and use absolutely every bit of my room, so I've even got things that are supposed to be in space stuck to the ceiling. So that is my double space station, and I love it there, and it still hasn't fallen off, so yeah, we're going quite well. Another big jet over there with a parachutist just jumped out with loads of money. He's my Lego DB Cooper, and flanked by a police jet. Another jet up here, and cargo jet in the distance, another jet in the distance, and the newest addition of all, a spy balloon. But who's the spy balloon from? Well, of course, it's the super secret police. Yeah, I took inspiration from some suggestions and the news to create my own little spy balloon with a camera and microphone on the bottom, all with solar panels around the balloon in the characteristic black and white stripes of the SSP. So that's really good fun as well. And then for the lower level things, I always like to mount them on bricks to buildings, so we haven't got anything hanging too far and swaying around, but low flyers can be done like this helicopter in distress, being helped by Superman. Cool. Yes, more noise as we come over to the harbour area of Brick Nottingham. We've got the motor in the lighthouse, of course, which I do intend to mod in coming weeks. And then we've got the Coast Guard helicopter, which is brilliant, and probably the only one that's big enough to fit all the electronics in it to enable us to do that. So yeah, like that a great deal. But let's turn that off just so we can hear ourselves talk in the meantime. And that is over a shipwrecked mariner here, and then a shrimp boat, rowboat, and that cove underneath the lighthouse. And then we've got more layers, one after the other, of pier, ship, pier, boat, all with little scenes on it, whether it be somebody fishing, or the seagulls attacking the fish being landed, or a sinking boat, or the tourist attraction of the El Dorado Fortress in the corner, the defunct old fortress being used for a display of pirates for the tourists. And we've got people explaining the old history of the fort, with the Zeppelin adventurer going on its merry way to lands distant. Then you can see I've started doing facades along this wall as well with the end of a container yard. Essentially that's representing loads of containers going off into the distance, and this being the very end of it. And I intend to do facades all the way along this blank wall up to the corner and possibly even round it next to the lighthouse. And we do have facades along the back wall there, albeit quite low rise, with the car's cargo being some bandits breaking through some handcuffs. Dock 13's got some more bad guys in it, and the next one has got some cops actually spying on them, so that's good. Some more offices down there, and this is yet more different levels. We've got the sea level, then we've got the pier level being a couple of bricks above that, but the whole thing is way below the train shed here with the train tracks on it. We've got about a 6 brick height differential there, and these cranes are kind of showing the difference between that by being very low on that side but quite high up over here. And I just love those crane feet, don't they look absolutely amazing, the old style ones. Then we've got a warehouse with Dr. Inferno in it, building a giant mech to take over the city. He's not very subtle with his henchmen out the front, all his branding right on the front of this Spider-Man set that I've doubled up, and he's even got some flyers flying into the rescue, because I think the Coast Guard over here have rumbled his secret vessel here, which is actually a missile sub with not gas in each of those domes, but a great big missile. So yeah, there's lots of fun going on in Brick Nottingham with baddies all over the place. And then just to finish off this area, we've got another old fort, just with a cannon defence, and this multi-levelled Coast Guard station with a slipway on the bottom, a gantry on the top, and it's the top level that meets up with the cargo area, which is more of a train kind of transfer area than the one before. And again, we've got facades, not only in loads of pallets with chemicals leaking out in this case, but also the office there, and this racking, which is very tall indeed, but goes off into the distance, into the wall, as does the back of this truck that's been cut off by our imaginary guillotine halfway through, just behind the Ark of the Covenant, which is being watched on its way out by Indiana Jones there. So yeah, loads of scenes in here, whether it be a vampire with his teddy waking up, or somebody playing on an arcade machine that is being transported rather than doing their job. And then we've got more containers and stuff around there as well. Back to the golf course, and then this is the main viewing angle when you come into the Lego room, and what a shock you get if you're not expecting it. And this is the angle that I make sure that none of my open back buildings are visible from, so you can't see into the back of them, so the illusion is maintained. I quite like having open back buildings, especially on the smaller ones like we saw around the marina and above the subway station, just because A, it lets in more light, B, it uses less bricks, but C, well, it's just no need to enclose it really if you want to be able to see all of the collections of the wonderful pieces on the inside. So yeah, that is a pretty good view, but one area we haven't really looked at yet is way over there. Now probably my fastest train in the city is this one, the Zeppelin train, shaped rather like a speeding bullet. It is powered by a propeller on its back that pushes it along, which you can probably just see on the back whizzing away. I'll try and stop it in the station, and then we can see the propeller going along on its own. There we go. So I can bring that to a close as well. Now the second standing hole has got a much different vibe to it, in the fact that we've now got open back buildings, as you can see along here, and that's because you can't see them from the main viewing angle of the room, the doorway being over there and the first standing hole brick bay being there, and it just provides a bit of reality on the inside of a building, which I really like to show off. So this is the hospital building with its wards and all of its different treatment areas and so on, like the proctologist here, who seems to be enjoying his job far too much. Then we've got the museum over here, where there's a robbery of a very valuable piece of art going on with this lady with her grapple gun attached to the top of the hospital. We've got a lot of artworks in here that are based on real life pieces of art, like Hurst's shark, or in here, Emin's bed, and other ones all over the wall. So that looks really good. This is probably my favourite, my own creation again, which is the GBC factory. And the idea of this is that ginormous balls get produced by this machine at the top and go down all of the conveyors to the bottom, where they get loaded onto this van. And there's a seemingly endless loop of this, if we turn it on, of all the balls going down through the conveyor belt, going two different ways, including outside the front of the building. We'll see the odd ball whiz round there. There's another one. And then they go through even more things down here to the bottom. They go through the basketball hoop and into the waiting van. But unbeknownst to us, there's an invisible link back to the bottom of a conveyor belt that takes them all the way to the top, where they can be produced yet again. So I think that's a really noisy but pleasing tribute to giant ball contraptions in the Lego community. And I just love being able to look through the roof at those balls being created. So that is my GBC factory. Let's turn that off. Then we've got our arcade, which has got loads of arcade games on the inside, and another one of my wonderful 3D signs. I always try and add a very visual 3D sign onto the outside of each. So there is Space Invader. And we've got more scenes here, like the pinball wizard has just completed his high score on the pinball machine, and while he wasn't looking, a boy stole his magic wand and converted his friend into a frog. Oh no! So yeah, and there's a few people walking on the way to the cosplay festival. And we've got another sign there with some ghosts on and some eyes stuck from hidden side sticker sheets for a Pac-Man sign. Across the road we've got the lovely station, which is a mashup again, like the castle was, of lots of old favourite sets, but it is my creation, just inspired by those wonderful old things. And what I love about this is that it is enclosed, and it makes a real good central point for the entire city. This great big station with its platforms, all of the stuff you'd see on it, very busy, and the interconnection between not only the tram line up here with the tram stop on the higher level, creating even more sort of 3D-ness, but also steps down, as you can see there, into the subway, where we've got somebody coming up out of the depths. So I think that's a really good example of all of my things coming together. And there's the back of that run of modulars that we saw before, just above the beach. And there is a passageway through underneath the detective store to get through to the boardwalk. So that is a really good feature as well. Now, I've got a couple more open-backed buildings here, being the sweet shop, converted from Honeydukes, of course, and this one being a combined sushi restaurant on the ground floor, but also a sumo dojo at the top, and that's loosely based on a Ninjago building, because I do try and incorporate as many themes as I can into my city, whether it be Harry Potter or Ninjago. And I do like open buildings so we can see the scenes, but I also do my own modulars. So you'll see at the end of here we've got the police station you'll recognise, but I've changed the entire top floor and the roof so we can have a base for the SSP that we saw with their balloon earlier. The bookshop unchanged. And here is my first one, Fast Food Corner, with its wonderful sign there with the Holy Trinity of fast food, the burger, fries and shake. And next to that we've got a chemist, and we've got a outward bound sort of shop, which takes up the next two floors, and that's got a climbing wall on the inside and all sorts of other stuff. And then we've got a pawnbroker there with a very old-fashioned looking building joining up to it. And the latest modular that I did is this massive giant modular mall, which actually takes up 2 base plates, with its vinyl record store, its alternative information radio with its lovely radio antenna on the roof. I love that, and that's being tapped by the SSP there. You can see they've got a spying device. Then a noodle shop over here, a travel agent over here called the Earth with a compass, My favourite, I think, might be the ball pool in Happy World, with kids up to their necks in a ball pool with slides and so on, which is above the record store with its bargain bins and so on, and the phone shop with ET as part of the 3D sign there. And on the very top, we've got the Tiki Bar with its recessed dance floor, yet more levels, albeit on just a smaller scale. You'll get it to focus on that. You can see that there's a John Travolta wannabe on the recessed circular dance floor. DJ there, and the bar, and some rather big, generous cocktails that are being enjoyed. Lovely. So that is butting onto the tram line as well. And the next stop over here is for the airport. And this is probably my biggest facade, if it isn't the castle. No, the castle's bigger, isn't it? So second biggest facade, but biggest cheat in a way, because rather than putting a whole airport that take an absolute raft of space, I've just done the front of a terminal building, one jetway onto a jet, and actually cut off the rest of the jet, so we don't have to have loads of tarmac taking up space in the city. Then loads of travellers outside, taxi rank, loads of people queuing, bus stop, and then the cargo area out the other side. And then our hotel where our cosplay convention is going on. We've got Leia's and Power Rangers and Uma Thurman's in Kill Bill outfit and so on. And that goes all the way up to the top where we've got a nice pool scene with a cool dude in the pool. And then over here we've got Far Corner Farm with aliens making crop circles and being spotted by people disguised as corn. And an abduction of a farmer, poor chap, going on as we speak, into another alien conquest flying saucer. And all the animals in the farm all piled in, including Alex the goat. And another facade being a farmer's field being harvested by a combine harvester, and all of that corn going off into the distance in our imaginations, both through the blind there and through the wall in both directions. And then a big pigsty with a rather messy vet scene. Ugh. Yeah, she's got something in the face. Very nasty indeed. Cool, so that is this side of the second standing hole, but what is on the other side? Well, to continue the involvement of the alien conquest aliens, they're invading the space tower over here, with some people on the ground there, some more going up in the glass elevator to rescue their commander, who's in the penultimate floor, who's in a prison cell. So, yeah, fair play, I suppose. Then there's the space dome on the top, where they're rehearsing the next mission to Mars, no doubt. Very good. And a massive Death Star-sized dish on the top. So these would be open-back buildings, but they've been relegated to the wall to become facades due to basically having too many to choose from. And the sign that smashed into the dish is actually part of the brick Nottingham Post building, adapted from the Daily Bugle, of course, with its ridiculously long comedy sign, which I just makes me smile every time I see it, just because it's so sillily long. And this one isn't being attacked by Marvel characters, it's being attacked by the Ultra agents from a decade or so ago. And we've got a few on the ground floor, including the Tremor tank, smashing right through the front of that building in a very visually stunning scene, if you ask me. That drinks machine flying out as the tank proceeds its way through. A mech on the back and a flyer on the side. We've also got the Tremor, Drillex machine coming up from the depths, and that has smashed a hole in the pavement and even made a little rock monster be unearthed on its travels. That's quite a funny scene. Then we've got Spyclops here releasing his mechanical spiders onto the building to do their work. And instead of the Green Goblin smashing out the front of the building, it is, of course, Antimatter, and he's firing one of his flick-fire missiles at some innocents, no doubt. Then we've got a few more flyers around the outside at the top, including Electrolyzer at the top there on his flyer. And as a whole scene, this is probably one of my favourite buildings, actually. There's just so much going on. And it beats just including the standard bugle building that everyone has in your city. Just make your own statement and incorporate a few different things that you really love. But that Brick Nottingham Post sign being at that angle just makes me laugh. Actually, talking of a funny angle, the Drillex machine coming up over there has actually undermined the foundations of the Ferrari Tower with its dual 3D sign, one with a black horse prancing and the racing car, of course. And that has caused the whole building to become the Leaning Tower of Ferrari because it is off at a jaunty angle. That was a subscriber idea that I reflected. I love getting beautiful ideas from my wonderful subscribers and incorporating them into my city. So yeah, that's a really good build with lots of scenes on the inside of people getting almost blown out of windows by big fans or falling over or whatever it might be. There he is, getting blown by a massive wind tunnel. So yeah, scenes in every building to enjoy. Then we've got another run of small modulars here, including the new jazz club, which is pointing the wall at the moment. I'm hoping to move that. I have done a few amendments to the signs on the front, including a big pizza sign, which you can see in a very recent video. And we've got a band on the top here, playing out to the rest of the city, making use of that big empty roof. And then on to the biggest area under development. Well, second biggest, I suppose. This area is still very much yet to do. But it is the fairground with big roller coaster, medium roller coaster, and lots of other rides, all incorporated into one big scene. Now, the idea here is to have them all motorized. So whether they're a friend's ride or just a gift with purchase like that one over there, they are all powered. But you can't see any of the motors or any of the battery boxes, or most importantly, any of the wires, because they are all concealed in the small level underneath it. And then there's another level on top, which is the one we can see. So I'll probably block in this side bit in due course to make it look more attractive. But as a result, all of this can move without a single bit of it being apparent. So let's get that going by turning on our 3 porta potties, which count as battery boxes. They've all got a battery box underneath them. So the first one here, if I just push that, powers one roller coaster and another great big roller coaster, but also that rocket ride and the Ice Queen ride. The second battery box makes the funny octopus ride spin and our chair ride. So that's good, and it will power another one that will be going in here. Then we've got our bumper cars, which is my favourite, and it's again my design. So they all go around in a circle and they hit each other every now and then. And this guy's in that one that never works on the corner. Then we've got another battery box hidden in that caravan, which powers the ducky ride going round and round there, or game rather, and the target shooting and this carousel. And then we've got another one here which powers the buzzsaw ride, or the turbo tumbler I think we called it, the pirate ship, the ducky ride, the Ferris wheel, and then the last one, which we didn't do, which was this one over here, powers the space spinner, the gold mine wheel of fortune, the splatter frog, and, well, not probably my favourite, the vertical drop ride, being the Venus fly drop. So you can see all these rides. Oh, and the only one that isn't working is the official roller coaster. Go on, grab on, there we go. Going at the same time, make a mountain of noise. I'll be surprised if you can even hear me. And there's more rides to go in. And now I've got the dodgems being nice and reliable as well. It is a really fun area that I really need to get on with finishing, I must say. Yeah, that noise is from the official roller coaster again. I must be going through some teething problems. Anyway, what a fun area. I think you'll agree. And an honourable mention to my second subway station, the haunted Halloween one, with the haunted train itself being built onto a Duplo train base, so it can use this effect of bouncing between 2 spots marked with tiles on the floor. And you can see the demon's face inside that and his fingers ripping through reality to get into our world. And the noise is his screams. Ooh. And who summoned him but Neymar Ream, accompanied by all of his ghostly pals, and saving the day are the Ghostbusters firing their streams over the normal train that just goes about its normal business, unaware of all the mayhem going on. But that was a really fun build for Halloween, with lots of tiles falling off the walls, eyes in doorways, and even people coming out of pictures in the back there. So yeah, a really good build. Well, I leave you with the flying Nottingham steam locomotive flying through the station with its very appropriate chug 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 noise. I'm still not entirely sure how that gets made, but anyway, that flying along, and my favourite little wagon on the back of the cargo train, the pump wagon. You've seen the tram going about its business over there, snaking through the city to the back of the mall, and we'll probably see the underground train, there we go, flying through the subway station. So it's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour. It's very hard to show you every detail without spending absolutely hours, but I hope you've enjoyed the real cross-section of what I've shown you today. If you want to see more, of course, you can look at the backlog of videos that the channel has to offer. Absolutely every single build has got its own video, so do check them out. But otherwise, it just leaves me to say goodbye, and thanks very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. Oh yes. So for now, in Brick Nottingham, until next time, see you!